So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Researcher Toolbox series. This is the kickoff today. So we start with research related to Sustainable Development Goals and how to find it in Scopus. My name is Lucia Scumbi. I'm a senior Elsevier Africa consultant for research intelligence in Africa. I'm based in South Africa. My role is to support customers who are using Scopus, SciVal, as well as other solutions such as funding, institutional, and pure. So over the next few months, actually, we will be covering several topics, and I hope you will be joining us for these webinars as well. I hope you've received the flyer. Most of these webinars are, centralized around Scopus. But there are also workshops in which we will also focus on Science Direct, for example. So next week, for example, we are looking at policy documents in Scopus, how to find them, what you can do with them. So I think that will be very exciting. And then also on the 6th of April, we'll be looking at research funding. So that perspective will be in terms of what information we have about research funding in Scopus and what you can do with it. I'm not going to mention all of them. So if you don't have this flyer, if you lost the flyer, please reach out to me and I'll send it to you. And I will also at the end I'll show you a link where we will be putting up the recorded webinars, and I'll try to also make this flyer available there. So just a few housekeeping matters. I know there's always a question. The session is being recorded and all participants will receive a link to the recording. That's why we asked you to register. And then the recorded webinars will also be added to our webpage at the address that I'm mentioning here. So as when I send you the recordings, just take note of this URL as well, because that's where you'll find the recorded webinars. And I'll also try, it's not up there yet, but I'll try to put up this the flyer about the Research Toolbox series there. So this is a webinar format so that we can manage it well. If you have any questions, just put it in the Q&A. You can also use the chat, and I'll get back to the questions at the end of the session. And so what we'll be doing today is I'm going to start with just very quickly one slide about what is Scopus, because I'm sure most of you know what Scopus is, but just to be sure. And then we'll talk about what are SDGs, why are they relevant for academics or the academic sector, and then I'll focus a bit on the methodology before we go over to the practical part, which is finding sustainable development goals in Scopus. It's very important that we do a bit of the theory before we talk about how to do it practically in Scopus, to know where does it come from. How did we match? How did we identify the publications as being linked to SDGs? I'll say something about SDG 17 and also something about SciVal for those of you who have access to SciVal. And then I've got quite a bit of resources to share with you. But just, starting off with what is Scopus. So Scopus is a global index of peer-reviewed literature. It covers more than 7,000 publishers, and that is then 25,500 journals. So sorry for the typo there on that slide. It's 25,500 journals actually that are indexed within Scopus. And these uniquely also include abstracts, citations, and it's also enriched with other data like funding data, for example, and PlumX metrics. And it links the scholarly content as well, if that is available in full text. The coverage is across various content types, all the academic content types, basically. It's all geographical regions of the world, and it also covers all domains of knowledge. So due to the unique data model that Scopus uses, which is basically that any publication that comes into Scopus is linked to an author, it's also linked to an affiliation. So through that data model, we have author profiles. There are more than 17 million author profiles in Scopus and 80,000 institutional profiles, which means that you can go directly to an author and find all publications linked to that author, as well as for institutions. Scopus also incorporates metrics on the author level, the journal level, and the article level. And the data from Scopus is available to use via APIs as well. So just that, in a nutshell, that is what Scopus is. And now we'll have a look at the Sustainable Development Goals. So firstly, what are the Sustainable Development Goals? They are basically specific research areas that relate to real-world problems, which were demarcated by the United Nations. And they serve as part of a plan to end poverty, protect the planet, and improve lives and prospects of everyone, so the entire planet, by 2030. It's a 15-year plan, which has 17 goals with 169 targets, and it aims at stimulating action in each of the critical important areas of humanity and the environment. Right. So the SDGs were announced in 2016 by the United Nations. It's basically a call to action to achieve a sustainable future by 2030. It replaced the Millennium Development Goals, which expired in 2015. So yeah, to reiterate, it's a UN proposed set of 17 goals to accomplish a sustainable future. The goals are founded on 5 key areas: people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. And why is this specifically important for researchers or academics? And it's because they play such a, the researcher group, they play an important role, of course, to resolve the challenges that are represented by the Sustainable Development Goals. But researchers also do a lot more than that. When I say researchers, I mean academics in general, because most academics do research. So they do more than that. They do more than just research, the issues that are embedded in the Sustainable Development Goals, because they also help us to understand the goals, and they provide input into what are the outcomes needed to resolve the goals. They ensure evidence-based strategies that are accessible to policymakers, right? So there's a big focus on not only doing research, but researchers also help us to make that accessible for the government, departments, municipalities, any kind of governments that can use the outcome of the research. So researchers also play an important role in proposing indicators. So how do we track the Sustainable Development Goals? And also they advise on implementation of resolution strategies, right? So they really have a very important role to play. On the other hand, also, when you look at it from an institutional viewpoint, Sustainable Development Goals also provide an opportunity from the university perspective, because it can advance collaboration, both north-south and south-south, because we're working towards big sustainable issues that need to be resolved. So that's a clear invitation to partner. Also, it facilitates access to science, technology, and innovation, and enhanced knowledge sharing. And also, it's a useful model for universities to communicate their contributions to societal and environmental issues, and the impact and the relevance of the universities in this regard. So one of the big issues or the big challenges around sustainable development goals is how do you measure progress towards the achieving the goals, and then from our perspective now for academics and researchers, how do you measure research towards sustainable development goals? This is a very difficult exercise because each of the goals is multidisciplinary, it's interdisciplinary, it's transdisciplinary, and it's problem-based. So researchers actually, they don't set out to resolve an SDG. They don't go and sit in front of, go to a lab and say, I'm going to resolve, zero hunger. So often they don't even use that kind of terminology when they are doing research. So that makes it difficult to track. Also, the presence of terms in a research document also do not necessarily indicate that it addresses the problem. Sometimes it's just a description. So it's not really research towards the goal, but it's just describing something related to the challenge. At Elsevier, we have been working for some time, so it goes back to 2017 already. We started working on finding a way of how we can map research publications to the SDGs. And it started in 2017 when we used keywords from a sustainability science report that we did, and to build search queries for 11 of the SDGs. And these mappings were then used by the first Times Higher Education Impact Ranking, which was announced in 2019, where these mappings were then used as an indicator for research towards the sustainable research towards the sustainable development goals. Then in 2019, the search queries were expanded to 16. So we started off with 11, then it was 16 in 2019. And again, it was used in the impact ranking of 2020. Then it was further developed in 2020 when we started working with external partners. So especially, it's expanded a lot now, but it started off with the Aurora network in Europe. There was Auckland University, there was Southern Denmark University. It's expanded a lot now. So we're working globally with institutions and networks to improve this methodology. It also then incorporated internal partners. We started, we incorporated research that was done by Science Metrics, and then we also added machine learning techniques to improve the search queries, and the new mappings were then used in the 2021 impact ranking. So it should be noted, I should really, stress this, that there are other methodologies that exist. They are being developed by commercial companies, by higher education institutions, by scientists. At this stage, none of the methods are considered perfect. And so you will also find within Scopus, we are not saying that this is perfect. That is why we have such a huge collaboration to improve the search strategy, on an ongoing basis. It's also important, before I forget to mention that even though we have now, we have the 2021 methodology, in Scopus, what is available in Scopus is the 2020 version. But I will also show you where you can find the actual search strategies for the 2021 version. So from 2020 to 2021, there was a huge expansion in the methodology when we started using machine learning. So the results, the keywords expanded, the results also expanded. So, you know, when you look at this up close, I hope you can see nicely on the screen. I just wanted to show you what these search queries look like. They are made up of keywords extracted from the Agenda 2030's target description. So each of the SDGs have a description, a target description. And this is where it all started, by looking at these descriptions and taking keywords from them. It's mostly phrases. And then it was also crowdsourced. It was feedback from domain experts, from bibliometricians, etc. So that's the you know, the keywords and mostly key phrases being used. If you look at the syntax, we used Boolean operators and an or mostly, and we also used truncation, the asterisk, and we used proximity operators. The queries, as they run in Scopus, are targeted towards the fields of title, keywords, the descriptor terms extracted from the full text where that was available, also journal subject areas, and the abstract. So both the 2020 and the 2021 methodologies, the complete search strings that were used for each of these SDGs, they are freely available to download from Digital Commons data. We're going to share this slide deck with you, and you'll find the URL at the bottom there. So Digital Commons data replaced Mendeley data, if you know about Mendeley data. Same thing, different name, and you'll find it there, and you can download any of the search strings. So you can basically copy and paste any of the search strings and use it in Scopus. Right, so in the Scopus search, I think I'll go I'll go live now. I'll show what it, you know, practically what it looks like within Scopus, and how you find this in Scopus. So let me just stop the share and share again. And I'll have to use that screen. Scopus and get some. If you don't see my screen properly, please drop me a note in the chat so that I can improve that. Then I'll put that there, over there. Right. So we are now in the Scopus, on the Scopus homepage, and to find the Sustainable Development Goals, you will use the search option. So the document search, I'm going to go to document search here, and then it's under the advanced document search. So you click on advanced document search. So unfortunately, my screen did not clear. There you go, it's clear now. Because what you do when you get into the advanced search page, you will scroll down and you'll find the pre-generated queries. So if you hover on that little on the little question mark, there's a lot of information. It takes you to the support page where it explains the methodology, what the Sustainable Development Goals are, etc. If you click on the little arrow that goes down, you'll see all the SDGs, and you'll see 1 to 16. I'm going to say something about 17 a bit later. We have not profiled SDG 17 because it is so broad. It's about partnership. If you click then on any of these predefined Sustainable Development Goals, I'm going to look at gender equality, and then it puts the whole search string into the search window. So you can see what it looks like. It's, you know, what fields it's looking into, what are the key phrases that are being used. And you can also now, from this page, you can change any, if you, if you are working in this field and if you want to add any key phrases or, omits any of these key phrases, this is where you can do that. So if you want to, you don't think it's important to look at anti-woman as one of the key phrases, just delete it. You can also add, sorry, you can also add key phrases, or you can add, any kind of refinement. So you can, for instance, I'll add, and we can add, say, Afro country, so that we limit it to a specific country, and I'll say South Africa. Right. So we've got all the key phrases, and we can add a date as well, but it's easier to use the refine option. So I'll just do that. Right. And then search. If you want to add any of the other fields, just use the field codes, and to do that, just click on the little plus sign and it will automatically add the field, and then you can add your descriptor or your text that you want to use there. For instance, you can say, and Afro organization, and you can add, say, Johannesburg or whatever. I'm going to just keep it to South Africa. Right. So we're looking at SDG 3. We've added a country limitation to that, and now I'm going to search. Right. So we can see that there are 2,780 documents which are linked to this, which are retrieved in terms of SDG 5, which is gender equality. And from here, you can now refine. So the refine panel allows you to refine by open access, and the different types of open access. So if you only want to see open access publications or gold open access publications, a specific year, you can also filter or refine by author name, subject area, document type, publication stage, journal, source or source, what is that? Source title, keywords. Keywords are quite useful. I'm just going to open up the keywords, because if you are interested in, want to see all the keywords in one go, or you want to, just filter, say, healthcare policy, you can use that and you can limit to. So the keyword function is quite useful. Affiliation is available, and then funding sponsor, country, source type, language, etc. So a lot of refinement can be done using the refine panel. I'm not going to refine. I just wanted to show you now that it's possible. The next thing you can do is to analyze the results. So we can maybe, if in terms of South Africa now, we're looking at a South African contribution to this SDG. So if we say analyze search results, it gives us a nice, a nice analysis of what has the growth of publications been over time. So we can change that. So the SDGs were announced in 2016, so maybe we can use that as one of the filters. We can use 2021 because we won't have many publications yet for 2022. So that's nice trend information. You can see it's been growing exponentially, but a real spurt there in 2020. You can also see which publications or which journals, so the source journals, are the most prominent in publishing on Journal equality, you can see it's PROS 1 with 44 publications, and then the other publications, journals as well. The documents by author, so the leading author on this topic from South Africa is Jukes R. If you want to see the publications of this author, you can click on the name of the author. This actually takes you to the profile, and these takes you to the actual document. So you want to see which publications directly contributed to this SDG. So you can click on the 50 documents to get a list of publications by the author on the topic. Right, so this is the only way to find. So there's not an option to find it's not possible to start with the author and then find to which sustainable development goals the author contributed. You start with the sustainable development goal, do an analysis on that, and then you will find the authors. If you're looking at this from a university perspective, just go back here to the results page. You could filter further by the affiliation. So if we look at the affiliation, for example, the documents per affiliation, we can see that in South Africa, WITS is leading research in this field. So if you want to find your authors that are contributing to sustainable development goals, it would be from this angle. So then you would go to the University of Witwatersrand, click on the documents, do an analysis, then again on the documents, and then you will find the top authors that are contributing. I'm doing analyze results again because now we're focusing on WITS. I'm scrolling down to show, so our Jukes, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, is the top author, and she is from WITS, she or he, I'm not sure. Right, so we've looked at the source, the main sources, we can see the authors, we can click on the documents to see which documents are linked to the SDG, the affiliation, the country, of course, then the documents by type. So here we can see which types of which types of documents, articles or short surveys, editorials, reviews, book chapters. So by far articles have the most numerous contributions, and then we can further analyze from that. And then also the subject area, so it's mostly coming, so interesting, there's a very it's showing, let me just open this a little bit. So if you look at the subject areas that are contributing to SDG 5, gender equality, it's medicine and social sciences are the most prominent. So probably journals that are covering both of those research areas. And then finally, we also have, who sponsored these publications. So if you open that up wider, you can see that most of the sponsors, most of the publications are, result from funding that was provided by the South African Medical Research Council. So a nice analysis, that you can do once you've done your search, you've filtered as necessary by country, by organization, and then you can also see, what type of publications, who's funding those publications, etc. So all the usual functionalities are active here. So you can export, you can print, you can email. You can change the date ranges, so all the normal functionalities apply as you would use Scopus usually as usual. So let me just check, are there any questions yet in the chat? And I'm going to just... Okay, so there's a question, if I can share the link in order for participants to try this. So you just need to go to scopus.com, do that from your institution, or if you have remote access, you can do that. So it's just scopus.com. And you go to the homepage. If I'm understanding this correction, I mean this, if I'm understanding correctly. So go to scopus.com and go to the homepage of Scopus. This is what the homepage looks like. Okay, so I get a message, she found it. And then remember, it's under advanced search, scroll, and then under advanced search, you will find it right at the bottom under pre-generated queries. Click on the drop down and you can do that SDG by SDG. I'm just going to go to new share. I want to check whether there was anything else in my notes that I wanted to still share. So these are the slides that I will be sharing. Right, so this is how you analyze your search results by clicking on Analyze Search Results. Here you can see the different tabs. From the author tab, you can click on the author name. Right, so I also wanted to mention something about SDG 17, because there's always a question, why don't we cover SDG 17? So SDG 17 is about partnerships for the goals. So our team that developed the search queries found that it was very difficult to quantify this goal because it has, it's just too broad. And also it is a research field. It's not really a research field, but it's more like a principle or a way of doing research or a way of addressing the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's the underlying principle of how we should be addressing the Sustainable Development Goals, and that is through partnerships. Right. So there are other indexes that have profiled this, but from the Elsevier perspective, we have not created a search query for SDG 17 because we found that it was just too broad to actually quantify. Right. So I just wanted to mention also so if there are any other participants who have access to SciVal, because SciVal is the analytical tool, which is based on Scopus data, there are more analytical features available in SciVal. So in SciVal, researchers, from a researcher perspective, so you can go to a specific researcher, say the researcher that we were looking at are Jukes. The example I'm showing here is an export from her or his profile, where if you export the publications, it will show you information about the publication and then also to which Sustainable Development Goals it relates. So this functionality on an author level is available in SciVal. For institutions, it's already aggregated on institutional level, so you don't need to use any filters, and it shows you, the output of an SDG relative to the impact of the SDG as well. So it's really very easy to find this info. So this institution, for example, has very high output in good health and well-being, SDG 3, also in gender equality and to some extent reduced inequality. But the highest impact is basically coming from SDG 16, which is peace, justice, and strong institutions, right? So institutions don't always just want to know what is the productivity in the SDGs, but also what is the impact. And here we're measuring impact by citations. It's not, you know, societal impact. It's actual real, you know, it's only academic impact. And the SDGs in SAIVA can also be analyzed on a global level. So, and then also benchmarked in terms of which countries or which institutions are contributing the most publications and the publications with the highest impact. So for those of you who have access to SAIVA, the analysis is much deeper, and it is also based on SDG on the methodology of 2021. So that's the most recent methodology. Let me see if I have any. So the rest of the slides, I've just put together some resources that are available around SDGs and the way that it's handled in Scopus and SAIVA, and also in general by Elsevier. So we've got the SDG research mapping initiative, so just showing all the partnerships and how we're working together with the rest of the world to develop a good methodology around SDGs. And then also on the Elsevier Sustainability Hub, we're inviting the public and researchers, academic community to also contribute. An interesting report to look at is the Elsevier report on the power of data to advance sustainable development goals. And on the next page was the one that I wanted to, no, I'm just going to share all of these. There's also a webinar where the SDGs were introduced. Oh, I forgot to put some more information on this slide. I just wanted to reiterate here that we will be making this webinar available on the site here, on the Scopus Training and Webinars website. But I will also be sending you the link, of course. Right. So that's it from me for now. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer. So if you want to add something in the chat or add something in the Q&A. I hope there are no questions because it was clear and not because it was not clear. It doesn't look like there are any questions. Of course, you can always just reach out to me personally as well. Okay, can I ask for data analysis? I'm not sure. So there is a question about, yeah, maybe you can, yes, you would, if you are interested in some analysis, you can reach out to me. I think it's also important to be able to do it yourself. So I would prefer to just give you a one-to-one, you know, little session to do that yourself. But yes, please just send me an email. My email address l.scumbi@elsevier.com. Okay. So I've got feedback that it was clear and informative. So I think we can end the session. Thank you so much for joining. And I hope this is useful. I hope you will, you will use it. And then we will see you back again on the 24th, I think, for the next session. Thank you very much.